morning to you, and welcome to another episode of Hub Talk. I am Kanishka, the marketing department lead at Creative Hub. Today with me, I have Sean, the lead digital strategist at Creative Hub. Hi, Sean. Good morning.
Good morning, Kanishka, and good morning to everyone who's watching as well. And yeah, thank you for having me on this second segment of empathetic product design.
Yes, so like Sean said, so this is a continuation from our previous episode, right, where we discussed about empathetic product design, basically how we can put the user at the heart of this, product designing process, right? So in our previous episode, we discussed about products, what a product is, right, and also we discussed about the product design section, right. Also, Sean discussed about a very important topic, which is the hook model, right? And we discuss about this QWERTY keyboard, right, as an example. Also, we discuss about the internal and the external triggers that affects when it comes to products, right? In today's episode, we kind of want to bring in marketing as well, right? So the first thing that comes to my mind, or the first topic that I want to discuss in today's session is when it comes to products, right? There are a lot of parties involved: marketeers, designers, developers. Taking marketeers and designers, right? Sean, in your point of or with your experience, right? What do you think? What are the mistakes or the things that designers and marketers get wrong when it comes to this product designing process?
Yeah, so I'd say that's a good question, a good place to start off, from where we left off last week, right? So I mean, to emphasize, like you said, there's a lot of different individuals involved in a product design process, right? So, like you said, you have developers, you have a your product owner or product manager, and then you have the marketers and the designers, right? So talking specifically about marketers and designers, right? First of all, like, if I can just go back to what we spoke about last week, like we spoke about what the product design is, yeah. Essentially, it's a process, right? And we spoke about the hook model, right? So if you recall from the last episode, the hook model talks about, I mean, we kind of understand the user from a deep psychological level to kind of understand what are the cues that actually occur inside a user's mind, and how we compel users to take action, and essentially invest themselves into a product, right, by rewarding them, and things like that, right? So at the end of the day, what we try to do through the hook model is then create a habit, right? Where users essentially have formed a habit around using our product. Yeah. So this all comes down to great product design. Yeah. Great product design that is functional and how should I say, beautiful, right? I mean, that's essentially the most, I would say, the philosophy or the methodology that the I would say, like, the biggest, the most successful products that we use out there, software products that we use out there in the world today, have more or less followed. Yeah. To address your specific question, Kanishka, like, what, in my opinion, what do I see, as marketers and designers, where do we go wrong? I would say in general, the design process. Yeah. So essentially, what we're trying to do here is, taking product design, what, as marketers and as designers, what can we learn from product design? Yeah. So I spoke about the process of product design, and the hook model and things like that. So when you look at that, I mean, obviously the first thing, and what we've been highlighting a lot, is keeping the customer or the user, when you talk about product design, the user at the center of your design process, right? In the same way, I mean, that's what we try to do in marketing as well, right? And as the title of this episode goes, is empathetic product design. So as marketers, as designers, obviously all of us want do that right. And in this modern age of marketing, empathy plays a key role. We are not just trying to sell a service. We are not just trying to sell a product. We are trying to empathize with our customers, right? And I mean, you would have seen, like, as a marketer, as a designer, the viral content that goes online of the some of the amazing things that like brands out there in the world are doing today, right? So you're trying to essentially make your brand more human, because at the end of the day, your brand also is a voice that wants to connect with people. And if
Correct.
you want to if you want your brand to connect with with your customers, who are real people at the end of the day, if you want your brand to connect with people, your brand also has to be human. Your brand has to have feelings. Your brand has to be empathetic towards the customers that it's trying to connect with, right? So it
Right.
means understanding their feelings. It means understanding the difficulties that they go through, and empathizing with those those difficulties or those challenges, right? So I mean, as marketers, as designers, being in the industry, I think most people actually have take that approach, right? Whether they actually the challenge obviously that we have is, this is the direction we want to take, right? This is obviously the thinking pattern that we have at the very start. But this goes through multiple iterations, and
Right. Yeah.
when you work with different stakeholders, sometimes the output that comes basically at the end of the day, the output that really comes out is not what was intended, right? And it doesn't really resonate as much as what you initially had in mind. So I think one thing, as I would say, as marketers, as designers, is when we I mean, we talk in terms of, say, campaigns and things like that, right? But when you speak about the purpose of a campaign, it has to start with making sure that your client or whoever the stakeholder involved has a common objective of not getting some creative crazy campaign out there,
Correct. Yeah.
or something, you get what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
essentially, you need to be on the same page, and your objective is empathizing with your customers. How can this campaign empathize with my customers? And that, I would say, is the most effective. So then everything that happens from that point on is essentially, even all stakeholders, right, are actively committed towards that goal, being
Yeah.
empathetic,
Yeah.
right? And essentially having that coherence, that to um, like where your brand is able to communicate from a very empathetic level. So I would say,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
easier said than done. Yeah, I mean, you and I have experience in that as well, right? It's easier said than done. But that's essentially, the most, I would say, the trickiest area, from my
Right. Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, so just to, I mean, the essence of what you just told, right? Basically, ignoring or properly not understanding the user's needs, right? And also the this lack of clear
Yeah.
communication is something that I, grabbed from what you just told, right? So
Mm.
most of the time, these marketers and designers, they sometimes, prioritize the aesthetic look over the functionalities, right?
Yeah.
Assuming sometimes, visually appealing design might, automatically resonate with the users, but
Yeah.
however, without doing the proper market research, however, without understanding the users actual needs, plus also the pain points, right?
Yeah.
The design might fail kind of to address the core requirement the
Mm.
users have, and also it might lead to dissatisfaction, and even the adoption rates might go down, right?
Yeah.
So with that also, Sean, I think another area, another thing that we like to discuss is about this. You might have heard surprising yet familiar, the
Mm.
four-letter code to selling anything, right?
Yeah.
What is your take on that, Sean?
Yeah. So I mean, so that's actually, going into another area. When like when you think about, okay, what is the thing that, again, as marketers, designers, what is it often that we get wrong, or we sort of, take the not so preferred route on, in our, say, the creative process, right? Just like we have the product design process, right? In our creative process, what we often get wrong is, um, I mean, it's tempting, but what we all want to do at the end of the day is stand out. Yeah, we
Correct.
want to be a unique, right? So as brands, we want to be unique. We want to do something that no one else has ever done before and no one else has thought of. And anyone who sees the campaign or whatever the creative idea is seeing it for the first time, right? And that's essentially what we're trying to do, right? But being in product and coming from a marketing background initially and all, that's what we are born and bred to kind of achieve, and what we kind of want to pursue is new, fresh, unique ideas. But something interesting that I learned is, like, working in product design and working in as a part of a team that builds products and designs products and things like that. What I kind of learned was, new isn't always good. New isn't always, say, the best thing to do, right? So this is where essentially this four-letter code that you were referring to
Yeah.
comes into play. So I'll get into that as well, right? So um, essentially, why I'm saying new isn't good is, um, when you think about it, right? As humans, we are not always comfortable with change, right? Yes, we like new things, but there is something called too new, right? Something that we are that is a bit too new for us, and too new in the sense that we are not comfortable with it, right?
Okay.
So this is essentially, I mean, it's the term is, we call it the exposure effect, right? When you're exposed to something over and over again, you start to become comfortable with it,
Yeah.
right? The more you are exposed to something, the more familiar you become, you essentially become with it, right? So this is true even for, let's say, the songs you listen to, right? We like new songs, and we like to listen, we hear new songs for the first time, right? But somehow the most trending songs and things like that are the ones that have the most familiar chords or the most familiar tunes, right?
Yeah.
Same with movies, right? If you look at, say, Hollywood, and the latest blockbuster movies, the most successful movies have always been like sequels, adaptations, remakes, right? Why? It's new, but yet it's something we're familiar with, right? Um, and I mean, a good example is essentially, the most familiar thing, right, in your life, something that you are the most familiar with, is your face, right? That is something that you are most familiar with. When you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, you have been exposed to that, that uh, that version of your face, that so often, that is what is familiar to you, your own face,
Right.
right? Interesting thing, I'm pretty sure most of you listening must be knowing this, right? The human face is not completely symmetrical, right?
Yeah.
It is not symmetrical, right? The left side of your face is not the same as the right side of your face, right? So what you see in the mirror is actually a inversion, right, of your actual face, right? But see, that is not what other people see, right? Your true face is
Yeah.
what other people. So that is why, sometimes when you see yourself in photos and things, you don't really think that you look good in your photos, because that's not what you're used to seeing, right?
Yeah. Right.
So it's kind of like, that's it's probably not yours. It's that is the real face, what you see in your photos and things like that, you know. If you're not a celebrity, right, you're most used to seeing yourself in the mirror, right? So it's
Yeah,
not you.
maybe that's why we, ask our friends to take. When you take a photo, we ask them to take it multiple times because you don't look the same.
Exactly, exactly. So it's not you at your you it's probably not you at your most beautiful, but it's
Yeah,
you at your most familiar,
correct. Yes,
right? So that's the thing. Like people, like they uh, only like new things, right? If they are like if they are just like old things, essentially,
correct.
right? So going into this, so essentially that's what this four-letter code basically talks about, right? And it's called Maya, right? Maya, Maya, right? So most advanced yet acceptable. Yeah, most
Right,
advanced yet acceptable. And this is something, you know, where you kind of want to, you know, balance this concept of, you know, something familiar with something surprising, right? You want something new, something surprising, but yet it has to be familiar. Yeah. So like that is what, you know, as I was saying, as marketers, as designers, we want to do something new, but you need to balance it. That's what I learned working in product design. You need to kind of balance this, you know. You need to understand that as humans, right, though we think we like new things, in reality we are actually uncomfortable with it, right? I mean,
right,
because this is going, so talking about, you know, psychology and things, this is, you know, it's rooted in our DNA to not be comfortable with things we are not familiar with, right? This is pure survival instincts, right? Because, you
right,
know, back, if you go back, you know, to the Stone Age and prehistoric man and things like that, uh, if something is new, right? Let's say it's a new plant or a new animal, it could probably kill you, right?
right,
But things that you're familiar with, right, you are alive because you have, you know, associated with that particular animal, or you know, associated with that particular plant, you're familiar with that, so you're comfortable with that. So um, essentially speaking, right, what goes on in the human mind is new, bad, familiar,
yeah,
good.
good,
Yeah.
yeah,
So what you call it is neophilia and neophobia and neophilia. So neophobia is the fear of new things, right? And basically neophilia is, you know, the opposite of that, right?
right,
So that is essentially what, you know, Maya talks about. So this concept of, you know, Maya was introduced by Raymond Loewy. So Raymond Loewy is actually, you know, one of the most revolutionary and, yeah, the most revolutionary industrial designers of the 20th century, right? So I mean, if you can see in this picture, he is the person who designed the sort of the how do you say, the design of Air Force One, right? Which
yeah,
is the you know, the passenger aircraft that carries the president of the USA, right? So the design for Air Force One, one of the most, you know, famous airlines in the world, was designed by Raymond Loewy, right? And likewise, you know, multiple other things, right? Even you know, the pencil sharpener, where you sort of, you know, put the pencil in and you turn it, right? That was also designed by Raymond Loewy, right?
right,
And all these things, like even say Air Force One, the design for Air Force One is still used today. The pencil sharpener, right, still used today, right? So these are designs that really stuck with, um, you know, humanity. Yeah.
yeah,
A good example, another good example of this whole concept of Maya is so Spotify, right? If I'm to quote, so Spotify essentially wanted to push new songs to their users, right?
right,
On the app, they wanted to, you know, show as many new songs as possible to their users, right? Unfortunately, there was a bug, in the app there was a bug,
Right.
and because of this bug, it kind of let slip through, a bit of old songs in the mix, right? So you
Right.
had new songs, but in between there were also old songs that were kind of slipping through, right? And they identified this bug and they fixed it. Yeah, they fixed it immediately. They fixed it. The moment they fixed it, engagement in the app actually just, it just plummeted. It went down,
Right. Okay.
right? So that's when they understood, okay, completely new is not the best thing. There
Yes.
needs to
Okay.
be
Yeah.
something familiar in the mix, right? So what they did is they reconfigure they you know re they reconfigured the algorithm again, right? To actually, it allowed a little bit of, familiar old songs, right, into this mix of new songs. Yeah. So I mean, that's essentially, I mean, when you look at all these, examples and things like that, that's essentially what we as marketers, as designers, need to keep in mind. Yes, it's good to think new,
Yeah.
to think unique, and, come up with new ideas, right? It's good. But learning from product design, like I said, at the end of the day, you need to also keep it, you need to be familiar, right? So I mean, that's what Maya says. Most advanced
Yeah.
yet acceptable. Simple way that I like to remember this is surprising yet familiar.
Media.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
So, essentially speaking, Sean, familiarity breeds trust, right?
Mm,
Where when introducing products to the market, it's very important or it's crucial, right? To we should have like a balance, right? To strike a balance
exactly. Yeah.
between innovation and then bringing out familiar products, right?
Mm,
Where we know customers, they are often drawn to novel and innovative offerings, but
mm,
at the same time they can also tend to prefer products that they are familiar and aligning with their existing preferences and behaviors, right?
correct.
So, Sean, another important topic that we want to discuss is we are kind of bringing this marketing or the digital marketing aspect as well
Mm,
into the discussion, right? Um, is something that the concept of applying product design principles into digital marketing.
yeah.
What is your take on it? How can we basically apply these product design principles
Mm.
when it comes to the side of digital marketing?
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it's there's a lot of, sort of aspects of product design that is replicable in what we do in marketing. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to do one thing, and that's understand users, understand customers, right? Kind of read psychology and use that understanding to create better campaigns, right? Whether it's better campaigns or better products, you're essentially, creating something that is, at the end of the day, what you want it to be is effective and, drive business growth. So whether it's the hook model or whether it's, Maya or whatnot, yeah, you essentially, kind of need to apply, these understandings, you know uh, to really get something, to create. It can be an idea, right? It can be a product or whatnot, right? It For it to be effective, for it to really serve its purpose, right? It could be to create a brand that resonates with users. It could be to create a product that is functional and habit forming, right? um I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be uh, a deep understander of people, a deep understander of humans, right? And I don't think anyone says it better than, I'm not sure if you would have heard Don Norman, right? So Don Norman is, I mean, considered as, I would say he's like revered as the father of UI UX,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
So essentially, I mean, Don Norman has, he basically brought this concept of user experience, right? And what he also kind of realized is, okay, although you could create really great, like functionally great products, in this age, we are also looking at, you need to create something that's beautiful, something that's appealing, right?
Yeah.
That is why, you no longer have, like, if you look at your Windows, if you think back to like Windows 98 versus the version of Windows that you're looking at now, right? I mean, Windows 98 did what it was supposed to do. It was functional, right? It worked well. That's why we used it, and that's why, you know almost everyone in the world used Windows, right? It was one of the most successful, apart from obviously Mac OS, right? Windows was one of like the most successful uh, operating systems in the world, and that's because it functioned really well. But functionality is not enough, right? It needs to be visually, appealing, or simply saying
Correct.
beautiful, right? So that is where, so Don Norman essentially talks about, designing, not designing for humans, right? Designing for humans, right? Designing things that are beautiful for humans, right? So you, like, connecting with marketing, right? You can have a campaign that, is really, designed to sort of give you the most optimal clicks and things like that, right? Or the most optimum conversions, right? And something that we kind of forget in doing that is it's not sustainable, right? Yes, you can
Correct.
optimize a campaign, but the moment you which we, if you take paid media, right, that's what we do. We kind of, keep on optimizing until we, I mean, there's no end to it, but you have to keep on doing that, right? So functionally it's great, it works, right? No problem there, but it's not sustainable, right? That is where branding and things come in, because branding is beauty, right? So beauty is what, even if you, I mean, you, even if Coca-Cola, let's say, stops advertising tomorrow, people are not going to stop buying Coca-Cola, right?
Correct.
They're still going to, buy it. Why? Is because of brand, right? So that is where, functionality and, beauty kind of come together. And so Don Norman actually, takes things one step further, not designing for humans, but designing for humanity, right? So obviously he's more rooted into the product space, and what he talks about is, when you're not designing for just one person, right? Or let's say a community or the world at large today. You're not designing for, let's say, the current, existing 8 billion people around the world. You're designing for generations to come, right? How can the products you build, or, the stories you tell actually resonate not just with one generation, but more like, generations after? Yeah. Because I mean, this goes a bit away from what we're discussing right now, but like, what the most common problem in the world today is, like, with deforestation and pollution and global warming and things like that. Designers are now pushed towards this, this ideal of designing for humanity, not just humans, designing for humanity, because you can design products that are one time use, right? You can
Correct.
design campaigns that don't do much after you stop it, right? After your campaign comes to an end, that's it. But how can you create a campaign that really sends a message to people that can be carried forward, right? So I think this is essentially, the sort of um, thinking that, we as marketers, we as designers really can, understand from people like Don Norman and Raymond Loewy and things like that. So these concepts are very easily, can very easily be applied to, say, our ideation, our, when we're brainstorming, when we're ideating, just keeping these learnings at the back of our mind really, I would say, changes, our perspective on things, and essentially, I mean, the kind of impact that we create through our marketing.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for that, Sean. I think in today's episode we discussed quite a lot of important things,
Hmm.
right? Just touched upon what we discussed in our previous session as well, right? But we kind of got a good understanding about what basically marketeers, designers, what do they get wrong when it comes to this product designing, right? And also we discuss about this surprising yet familiar. How can we have a a good balance between new products and familiar when you're putting out a product? How can you have a good balance between those two, right? And also you just spoke about Don Norman, right? His principles, and also how can we apply this this product design concepts when it comes to marketing, right? It's not, again, it's not just about designing a product, right? How can we follow the proper principles, and how can we design or develop products not only for humans but for humanity, right? So these are a couple of very important things that we discussed during our episode today, right? So we are hoping to come back to you guys with another episode on another very interesting topic, right? So if you guys have any areas and interested areas that you think that we should discuss about, just let us know in the comment section before or below, so that when we come to our next session we can make sure that we discuss about the topics that you are also interested in. Also, like I mentioned when we started this episode, if you missed our previous episode on empathetic product design, you can go to the Creative Hub LinkedIn page and watch that, and then come back and watch this session once again to have a good understanding about this whole concept of empathetic product design. So Sean, thank you for joining today's session, and giving your ideas, your thoughts, and your expertise to our listeners.
Thank you very much, Kanishka. Thank you for having me, and also thank you, everyone who is watching. So yeah, I do hope that you kind of got a something helpful and something insightful that you can also apply to your your marketing, your campaign development process, and yeah. So yeah, hope you guys will be able to put out great work with these new learnings.
Yep, right. So thank you, Sean, once again. So we hope to see you guys with another very interesting episode. So till that, have a great day. Thank you, guys. See you. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
guys. See you. Bye bye.